Shalom, brothers and sisters. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for this week's uh, weekly news update and review. And I'm always grateful for every one of you that join us for these reviews. There's quite a bit to cover. I've been kind of scrambling pretty much throughout the day to kind of whittle this down because there's so much content. And then I got Octavia. Thank you, Octavia. She sends me more, and oh, thanks. Help me sort this. There's so much going on right now that is warring against you. And I believe that the adversary is quite upset about his time being really short. That's the sense that I have. And hang on, I'm still going through a little bit of setup stuff here. Hold on just a second, folks. Let me get this connected. Of course, that's going to do. There we go. No, I can get that fixed. Good. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And thank you, Octavia, for the 5x5. Now I know you can hear me out there. Appreciate that. Again, I want to encourage every one of you who are believers in Messiah. One thing I just feel really in my heart today to say to everybody is redouble your efforts in forgiveness. And if anyone has offended you or even taken advantage of you or whatever it is, just let it go because the King is coming. And don't let some petty offense keep you from your reward. You know, your reward is with him. And as he comes, he's going to reward those who were faithful, who forgave, who did what he said. Remember to bless even our enemies is what he said. And this is a very important word in this hour because it's a little easy to start labeling people. And remember that we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers. And so it's really easy to label people. And so I just want to encourage you to just be very forgiving. Give a lot of grace to those that you see have any sincerity. If there's sincerity in them, if you see some sincerity, give grace. Give grace because there's so much going on at the same time. And unfortunately, so many are tossed to and fro by every wind of doctrine. You all have, if you are part of a fold, if you're part of a remnant house, or really whatever fold you're part of, if you're stabilized, you don't realize the advantage you have on those that are still out in the ocean, that are being tossed by the waves, if you will. So it just pulls on my heart, and I just want to share that with you guys. I know you guys all have, similar heart, and I'm certain that you're seeing some of the same things I am. And it's very concerning. While on the one hand, we do have to point out sin, and we are ruthless with sin and ruthless with doctrinal things that we need to have clear, but we also have to be very careful about that because we have to be gentle with people. Amen. And so many of them are captives. They don't even know it. A lot of people are, unfortunately, have been taken captive by our adversary. And, it's our obligation to free them. Do you know that one of the things I learned when I was in Israel, as I kind of finished my setup here, was that if you know someone is a captive, right? So if you perceive that they're in captivity, it is a high commandment to free them. This is one of the reasons why the Israeli government will never abandon one of their troops. And speaking of Israel, there's an area that I think we're going to spend. Do I sound like a chipmunk? I don't want to sound like a chipmunk. Sorry about that. I don't know what's doing that. Next week, I think. Oh yes, you probably have. You probably have the speed wrong. So let's make sure we have that on normal speed. Oh, I see. She's catching. Got it. I got it. I'm caught up now. I'm with you now. Never mind. That was cute. What I was going to say is next week we may have to spend just one program on Israel. just on Israel alone, because there's so much news there. I just want to say, continue to pray. And we pray every single day for Israel, for our brothers and sisters there. And I encourage you all to do the same. And we also pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And we have, of course, our beloved sister there. Actually, we have several people that are in Israel that are dear to our hearts. So continue to pray for those people in the land of Israel. I just want to encourage you to do that because it is pretty serious. There she is. Speaking of her, there she is. And shalom, my sister. You decided to stay up and hang out with us, and we are so grateful for you. And so thank you for joining us. Those of you that are joining us for the first time, allow me to explain why we do these. And just take a few seconds here to say that many of our members and friends and brethren who we would encounter, we'd say, hey, have you heard about this? Or did you hear about this? And they would say to me quite consistently that they had checked out of the news, checked out of what's going on, current events. And frankly, I understand why. There's so much manipulation. There's so much somebody once said that if you don't listen to the news, you're uninformed. And if you do listen to the news, you're misinformed. There's a lot of truth to that. And there's a lot of sorting that has to happen as we review stories and try to discern what is and isn't true. And that's not easy to do, obviously, but we go by the anointing and we try to see where he's leading us to say, look at this, watch that, pay attention to that. And again, thank you, Octavia, for your help. You are fantastic. And really everybody on Facebook, all of you who are on Facebook are part of our groups, part of our discussion boards. All of you have been very helpful in putting up stories, putting up current events, making sure that we're kind of all staying aware. So thank you so much for that. We don't want to listen to the propaganda. We don't want to listen to manipulation. We just want to get down to what's actually happening, how it relates to Bible prophecy, how we see the day approaching as we are commanded to do, assemble together, and all the more as you see the day approaching. And I just want to say a quick hello to all of my brothers and sisters. I'm seeing some of my brothers and sisters that I haven't that I haven't seen in a while. So it's nice to see you join us for this broadcast. And again, those of you that are part of the house, always delighted that you're here. And it is my honor always to sit with you and in any way that I can, wash your feet, help you in any way that I can. And I feel like some of this information you would not know about if we didn't slow it down and say, did you know this? Did you know about this? Did you catch this? And so there are several things that are happening right now. So let's get to the news. And let me get that on the screen. We're going to be talking about a few different stories tonight that I believe have serious impact on our world. Now, many of you remember that we're of course in Arizona, and we're watching very closely the situation here in Arizona. And any of you who've been watching Remnant Watch know that this absolute bombshell. Thank you so much, Ariel. That's very kind of you. This absolute bombshell came out, and so we reposted it and we rebroadcast it. And I ended up playing this for our whole team during breakfast when it came out. And I've watched it 3 or 4 times since this report came out, and it is truly stunning. I'm not going to play it tonight. I'm just going to, show you that it links to a BitChute video, which is there's nothing but that content on it. There were some other versions that had ads and other things, so we just got you just the content, if you will. And this is actually on our BitChute channel, which we use occasionally, and don't use it very often, but occasionally I use it if I need to get something out there that I'm a little concerned that YouTube may not, necessarily want us to put on their platform. So that's fine. We put that over here. And so just so you're aware, you can listen to the entire forensic investigation of corruption in Arizona. So this is what happens when you intercede. And all we did was pray for Elohim to bring light and that all this wickedness would come to light. So as we did, lo and behold, as you watch this, you're going to see the literal answer to prayer. As you see the forensic information that was released, many of you already heard about it, so you know what I'm talking about, and you know how stunning it is. And for those of you that didn't, waltz on over to remnantwatch.com and click that link, because I'm telling you right now, that's going to be a bomb. That is a bombshell. It is flat out forensic information. And just to summarize, essentially, half the government, it looks like. I mean, they had judges, they had clerks, they had sitting politicians. This whole committee over here looks so nervous because I think they were worried she was going to out one of them. Straight outed Katie Hobbs as a recipient of some very questionable money. They're already calling her, the call for her resignation, the call for her indictment is growing by the second. So this, as I told you, this is a battleground, and it almost feels like, the country gave and gave and gave and gave, and this is where the line held. And I want to say, I'm very, again, grateful for the remnant, because I believe that one of the critical missions that the remnant went on was to take oil. And you guys wouldn't have known about this. This is a secret thing, but I'm telling you what happened. And as they were having that battle over certification, and several of our brethren went to anoint government buildings, and it was Cochise County that held their ground and fought back and slowed the whole process down, drawing a lot of light to this. And then so now all these counties, all of these these county officials who were very, very manipulated and even threatened in order to get the certification done, now have just been vindicated in a massive way. So that anybody that got their arm twisted, that got threatened, that got told you better or else, and they did because of threat, are now livid. So the attorneys are cranking, and I'm telling you right now, one side note that I thought about is, if I had been, because they use single family homes, as you'll find out as you listen to that report, they use single family homes as their laundering mechanism. Who knew, right? I didn't know that, but that's the way they laundered money, and how they paid bribes. So this is treason, saints. Yes, that's exactly right. This is treason, because it's a foreign country's people that are paying them to do that. So this is very dangerous stuff that's happening. And so to hear that was just stunning. It was just stunning information, but so forensic, matter of fact, and very detailed. So there's no running. If you're on that lady's list, I promise you, anybody that's on her list is right now either lawyering up or running for cover or thinking about how to end it all, because I'm telling you right now, that was damning. That was very damning testimony, and it's going to be hard to come back from that with any kind of excuses. I've not heard a word. I've not seen anything published from the government here in Arizona. I haven't seen a major response yet. I expect that will be coming very soon. So we'll keep you abreast of that, but you definitely want to catch that video. It's a solid 20, 30, or I think about 40 minutes of content. And I believe they are, I think you're right, Alan. I think they're quite nervous. They're quite upset that it has now come out. And you could see even in the committee that towards the end, they seem they were trying to contain this thing, and it's like too late, it's out. And now there's people now, this same lady who was part of that forensic team has now gone and done interviews, and it's on Alex Jones, it's on, SGT report did a report, and they've got who knows how many. Pete Santilli did a report on it. So this is not staying under wraps. Okay, this is a massive level of corruption, folks, massive level. So you remember how we did a talk a few Shabbats ago, probably about 8 or 9 Shabbats back there, where we talked about all their secrets shall be revealed. Remember that? And so that was prophetic. That was a prophetic word, if you will, by Elohim. And I told you then, if you thought the light had been shining up to that point, wait until after. So what happened since then? Well, since then we had the Twitter files, and some of you may not be paying attention to the Twitter files. We're going to do a whole broadcast just on those. And then we've had all these different revelations and all these different things that have come out since then. And we feel like our hair's being pinned back by the wind of revelations that are hitting us, of all this stuff that they hid and did and harm that they did, with the intent to control you. And so this is what they're afraid of. They're afraid of your unity. They're afraid that you're going to be awake. Saints, you are the ones who hold the high ground. You are the employers of these people across the nation. All 350 million of you who are part of the public, if you will, whoever you are. If you're here in this country and affected by this, and don't think because, I don't live in Arizona. No, this forensic audit went to multiple states. And as a matter of fact, one of their efforts got, they had an attorney, guys, that didn't even exist. They created people out of thin air and got them degrees so they could put them in positions and so forth. They had to get somebody disbarred from California that wasn't even a real person. All right. So the information you're going to find out when you listen to that is stunning, just to let you know. So again, that's just one of the many things and we're tracking this because not only because we live here in Arizona and we're obviously concerned about, how things are going to be going here in our state or in this region, but at the same time, it's also a matter of the truth. As we have continued to say, I don't care about these political things. It doesn't matter to me who's signing what and who's in what office and who's doing what job. It doesn't matter. What does that matter? Why do we care? Right? They're two wings of the same bird. What we do care about is the atmosphere of deceit, corruption, evil, wickedness. That's our job. That's where we come in. It's like parents saying, I don't care who's on which team when you guys divide up the children in the playground to play Ringalivio or whatever game you're going to play. Okay? But bless the living Elohim, ain't nobody going to hit somebody in the head. You know what I mean? Like, we're just here to keep the rules working, just to make sure that, that's how we pray. We pray for integrity. We pray for honesty. We pray for light. We pray for all corruption to be exposed, right? We don't care where it lands. We don't have a dog in that fight. We don't care. But what we do know is that we don't want to see corruption. And this is why we're paying attention to it. And light is the disinfectant. It is hard to do these things when everybody knows. And what I thought was really brilliant, one last comment, she didn't just expose them. She taught people how to go do the research on them, which I thought was just amazingly brilliant, because now you're basically red pilling everybody that listens to this, and they're all can run and do, searches in their counties for elected officials and their family members to see if they have an unusual number of houses and deeds in their name. That's all public information, right? So she just trained a bunch of amateur investigators. Cut you loose. You see what happened there? They cut you loose. Now they're in trouble. So this is going to probably continue to snowball, and we're going to watch this story with great interest. And so I wanted to share that with you right off the bat, because I believe that it is a beautiful answer to our intercession and prayer for his will to be done. And that battle with corruption, well, it's something that we're going to continue to have a battle with. So, and there's my brother, Jebrael Tomah. He's with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us, my brother. We got a great talk we're going to do this midweek. We've got my brother Alan going to be joining us. So just want to mention that to you folks. Join us for this midweek talk. We're going to be talking about a few really cool things. Oh, one more thing before I move on to other stories. And since we're talking about that, Shemen Raphael, somebody had posted a comment asking about getting access to the oil. And so, as in response to that very kind request, we did put a form just under the calendar on our website So if you go to remnanthouse.org, just underneath the calendar, right on the front page, you'll find a form that'll allow you to fill that out. And if you're a member of Remnant House, then just let us know. We'll get you, and we take care of you. If you're a visitor or a friend and want to bless and help us out, these aren't cheap. We buy the very best material ingredients. So thank you for supporting and encouraging our work. We really appreciate it. Moving on, we've got massive change going on in Ukraine. I don't know if you all are paying attention to that. I don't like to pay too much attention to it because, well, frankly, I'm not a warmonger, and I really don't like to read or discuss, dismembering of bodies or people blowing people up or fighting. That's not my gig. I'm a peacemaker. So, but I have to keep an eye on this stuff because it is part of the fulfillment of scripture, and this is leading us somewhere. And this Ukraine war, I keep hearing rumors that it's either all but over, or that it is winding down considerably. Now, there's some conflict going on in how they're going to resolve it. This is really interesting to watch. Ukraine, of course, received a overture from the Chinese government and willing, of course, to mediate a ceasefire and a peace plan, and Ukraine seems to be quite eager. On the other hand, Joe Biden doesn't seem to be too eager to allow it. So there's conflict there. I wonder if that isn't the reason for the visit to Ukraine the other day. Did anybody notice? I'll see if I can find a picture of it before we're done today. Did you all notice that on the footage for Biden's visit to Ukraine, that they had Zelensky's body double like standing in the back, and you could actually catch him? I'll show that to you before we're done. It's pretty cool. See, this is all a stage. It's all a game to these people, and that is coming to an end. Like this whole stage production is coming to an end. Okay, and yes, Shaman Raphael apparently works for locations as well as bodies and people, so that's good to know. And so there's some different things that are going on here. You see, Biden has, this was on ABC News. Hang on, let me put it on the screen. And Biden has dismissed China's proposed peace plan. So, hey, I thought, cooler heads should prevail, right? In an interview with ABC News, U.S. President Joe Biden dismissed the peace plan China put forward for Russia's full-scale war, noting that it would likely only work in Russia's favor. And so rather than find a way to negotiate a good peace, they're just going to dismiss it out of hand. The reason why they're going to dismiss it out of hand is because it's just not their plan. They want to take us to full scale, blood in the streets, everybody. And I mean, they want to kill so many people. They're committed to this depopulation idea, this false doctrine in their brains, and they're trying to execute it. And it's very sad, but it's very real. So, of course, they're going to dismiss any peace plan. How are you going to do anything with that? We finally got they've been trying to start this fire for years. They finally got a little smoke, and they don't want to let that go. So this is going to get interesting as we watch, because the diplomatic pressure to bring in peace will be very, very high. And I do believe that they're struggling to maintain public support, not only here in the United States, which is, waning quickly, but overseas and in Europe and in other places. They're just not having success convincing people that this is a very important. Yeah, I can see your comments. There's no flag. It's a very important time period. So, again, folks, we've got a lot of battles going on here. And again, you have to be very awake, not because necessarily you're involved in any of these things, but these are like kettles on a stove. At any time it could boil over. If you ever had a kettle on the stove and you're boiling something, you got to stay nearby, because at any time it could just boil over. That's kind of what we're looking at here. We're looking at situations where it could really boil over very quickly. And here's the kind of stuff that can help do that, right? So these are very dumb ideas during a time of war, unless you want conflict, right? So if you want conflict, then these are the kinds of things you do. You hold exercises right on their border. U.S., Poland, and Germany may hold joint maneuvers, right? Washington is in talks with Berlin and Warsaw to hold joint military maneuvers in Poland in response to Russia's threat to the eastern border of NATO alliance, German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius said on Sunday. Exercises were being considered, Pistorius told public broadcaster ARD, without confirming or adding any details for now. So they're talking about this, sort of throwing it out there that, hey, we're gonna do some exercises. Okay, well, if that's jumping jacks and sit-ups, we're good. If you guys are going to start bringing out hardware, then that exercise is just basically an excuse for getting hardware into the theater of operations. Anybody that's been in the military knows that. I mean, that's just a real simple cover. You can pretend you're doing an exercise so you can get the right equipment where you want it. So this is all connected to that, and of course, Joe Biden. This was on End Time Headlines, and Joe Biden's administration is warning China, if you can believe that, because I don't understand how they can be warning anybody. But here they are warning China that they're making a big mistake if they help Russia in the war with Ukraine. I don't know if somebody's updated, but we don't have the might as a nation militarily to fight both Russia and China, not to mention other countries that they might join in with. This is starting to sound like Henry Goover's prophecy might suddenly come to pass. Where the United States is attacked by a consortium of countries that have had about enough of the hegemony of the deep state. And so this is not a good, this does not portend well, if you will, for our short-term future. In the short term, we should be seeing some, again, the desperation level of these folks continues to rise. Remember that as the light shines, their plans don't last. So they used to be able to float a narrative for a long time. But now you've got all these alternative news sources and all these basically rogue, broadcasters who are ruining it for them. And so they can't maintain a narrative more than 24 hours before the hive mind of the internet destroys and starts picking it apart. And and we start finding the holes in it and start finding the things they're trying to hide, right? And here's something that's been plaguing us. I want to put this on here. How many of you have had about enough of these drag shows for children? How many have had about enough of that? Okay, I had enough before they even said it, right? Before they even tried it. Well, there's some serious pushback going on right now, folks. And this is very encouraging to me that it looks like the state of Tennessee is about to make that illegal. Now, we talked about last week how that the state of Idaho was making the shot illegal. So a lot of pushback going on. House Republicans passed a joint anti-LBGTQPCT, whatever the heck, legislation yesterday, which, signed by the governor, would make Tennessee the first state to criminalize drag shows. And I think that a lot of people who have been exposing the sort of groomer mentality and groomer network have really done a good job. And I think that is a very important thing, not because this has nothing to do with sexuality, has nothing to do with any of that. We know what sin is, so we don't have to even talk about that. No, this is about access. This is about raw access to your children, to the children of the nation, if you will. And I'm very grateful to see pushback there. I believe you're going to see that momentum continue. I believe that just like you're going to see what happened here in Arizona begin to spread to other states, because they're going to start going, wait a minute, if you did that there, are you doing that here too? And that's it. Once you got them looking and they know where to look, it's pretty bad. So they're in trouble there. I believe that's going to be a big issue for them. Now we're going to talk about the environment, because there's a lot of things going on in the environment. I don't know if you're aware of it, but if you live in Oklahoma or in that area down in the southern part of the United States, then you are aware, because you just went through one of the most catastrophic tornadoes that has ever hit your state. And so, folks, if you've got friends and family in the state of Oklahoma, I encourage you to keep them in prayer, and you might want to keep a light on for them, because if their house got destroyed, they may need to come and visit. Tornado touches down in Oklahoma as massive winter storm heads to northeast. And so this just happened, and we had, there were some yesterday. I heard from one of my friends, my brother Jeremiah, who is out in Oklahoma. Oh, there he is right there. He's with us tonight. And yeah, this was not a joke. This is a serious, serious time period, some serious weather bearing down on our country. And I believe worldwide, there's a lot of manipulation of the weather that is part of this multidimensional warfare. And don't you think for a second it wasn't. Remember, we showed you last week that coincidentally certain ambassadors happened to leave the earthquake zone. Coincidentally, it's just coincidentally now. It's just coincidentally. They just happened to leave. So, they're not dumb. They figured it out. I don't know if you realize this, but Saudi Arabia announces the day before they're going to make rain so that the citizens know that they're going to make rain. Yeah. So this is common knowledge. And so this is why you're seeing some of the things that you're seeing. There was a devastating attack that happened in, I believe this is one of the stories I went through so many, but one of the things that I heard about was the attack. I believe it was in New Zealand, if I remember right. We do have a couple from New Zealand, don't we? But that was very suspicious. Looks like it was a retaliation, right, for some of these, weather and manipulations and what have you. So again, a lot going on at the same time. Look at California. Let me get this up. Where's that at? California. Poor California. I don't even know. Do they have winter clothing? Do they even sell winter clothing? I'm kidding. I'm sure they do. I'm teasing. But this was epic, as they're calling it. They're calling it an epic storm. Look at this, guys. Now, this is going to look like we're looking at, like the Northeast or something. But they got slammed. Here, see if I can pull up some more pictures. Do I have any more pictures? Oh, come on, guys. Oh, that's lame. No, I saw one of my sisters posted a picture from on Facebook, and it was they were shoveling out of snow. Okay. And so standing at Kenneth State Recreational Park, the 25-year-old was in awe of the snow-covered Santa Monica and San Gabriel Mountains. And so this is everywhere. And this is weather manipulation, folks. I mean, I hate to tell you, but what you're seeing is weather manipulation literally going mainstream. And this is good and bad. In some ways, it can be good. It's obviously we need rain in drought-filled areas. So if you can rain over Lake Mead, that'd be great, right? I think there'd be a lot of people in Arizona and in Nevada that would be delighted about that. But if you're using weather as a weapon, then that's a different story. And so that is something that we're going to continue to keep an eye on. But it does seem like there sure is a lot of extraordinary weather going on, just coincidentally. A lot of coincidences that have been happening, lately. So I want to see. Wait a minute. I think I had. Hold on a second. I'm going to talk about some more coincidences here in a second, but I just wanted to make sure I don't have any more, as I went through so many weather stories that I had to decide how many of them I was going to share with you. Because there's so many of them. And if you do any review of weather issues, you're going to see that it's epic, to say the least. Now, the big story that is we mentioned it last week. No one was talking about it. And all of a sudden this last week, it literally just is everywhere. So that's kind of interesting in and of itself. But this is a very serious situation. We have been watching it develop. And of course, many of you now know about the horrific spill that occurred or the train derailment that occurred in East Palestine, Ohio. The horrific environmental disaster in East Palestine, Ohio has contaminated the air, the soil, and the water in much of the region. So how much, if any, of the food that is grown in that part of the country will be safe to eat? And again, this is one of those things that you don't think about until you do, right? And so in this article, of course, it's gonna posit that idea. Well, it's spreading. So you see the size of this thing. See the size. This is from an airplane, and this was the sheer size of that burn. Well, any of these clouds in contact, these materials, these things are so small, especially the dioxin, that it travels through all of this. So we're talking an impact radius of much bigger than this circle. And that's exactly what the evidence is now. That's what the evidence is now showing around the earth and throughout different parts of the United States. You're starting to get reports are starting to come in to share just, how much contamination is in their area or any of the various areas that are not yet impacted, but are slowly being impacted. So we're going to get to a couple of stories that if you're in Texas, you may not be too thrilled about this, but that water is on its way to Texas. So these people, I don't know what they're thinking, but welcome to our world. And there was another environment, one of the tragic things that occurred in relation to this. So how many know that they want to do this, but they don't really want to fix anything? And this was a very tragic story. The environmental scientists headed to Ohio were killed in a plane crash. So we can see, this is a very suspicious plane crash. There's a lot of people wondering if that was intentional. Again, you can find this story on Remnant Watch, and I am certain that there's going to be some very deep investigations into that. But the fact of the matter is, they killed 5 scientists who were on their way to determine just how much toxicology was in the environment. And that's what they were en route to do, and they were removed. So, if you don't think this is a war, see, the way war works is one group kills another group to try to win. You know what I mean? So there's various ways to commit, to have a war, and they are seemingly quite committed to this conflict. And so I just want to remind you all of that. Toxic wastewater. Oof. Don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at the messenger, guys. Okay? So if you're in Texas, don't get mad at the messenger, because I'm scared of all you Texans. Don't come get me. I didn't do nothing. I'm just telling you what they're saying here. Look at this. Toxic wastewater from Ohio train derailment headed to Texas. Another coincidence. Recaptured toxic wastewater that was used to extinguish a fire after a February 3rd train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, is now headed to Houston, Texas suburb for disposal, according to the top official from Harris County. What could go wrong? Aren't you filled with just trust? Don't you just feel like this will just go exactly according to plan, right? I'm telling you what, folks, there is again, like I said, so many pieces coming together at the same time. And this is where we have to be very careful. We don't want to draw any conclusions necessarily. We just want to be aware. All right. So what are we seeing here? We're seeing a multidimensional war against the United States. If you look at the circles of each area that's being impacted, they're starting to connect. They're starting to touch. These contaminations are overlapping. So this is a concerted effort to do harm to massive population centers. Now, I told everyone, and I was very adamant about this. I know not many people listen, but I'm going to continue to say to get away from these population centers. Get out of there. All right. This is a controlled demolition. Look, this is like witchcraft on a mass scale. Can I go off the stories for just a second? I'm just going to talk off the cuff here. It's mass manipulation. So in order to get you to accept what they want you to accept, they have to first set up, this is the Hegelian dialectic on steroids. They want life to get horrible so that whatever they offer you, you'll take it. You see, that's what 9/11 taught them. 9/11 taught them that if they can set up the country to feel this sort of fear, to feel like something's wrong and that they have the solution, next thing you know, we used to be able to go buy an airplane ticket. Y'all don't even know this. Some of you just don't even remember this. Only us gray hairs remember when we could go buy a ticket the same day. The same day. Walk in, walk straight up to the counter, walk straight up to the ticket counter. Yeah, they did a little quick security check on you, make sure you weren't, whatever, but they just checking your ID pretty much. And that was about it. And you got on the plane. It took 10 minutes. It took 10 minutes to get to the airport, folks. Remember that? We used to walk to kiss our families goodbye at the gate. We used to welcome our visiting family members literally as they got off the plane. That was normal. That was normal America. And then the 9/11 happened. And all of a sudden, they decided that y'all needed to be patted down and checked and scanned and reviewed and what have you, because they were basically enacting this. And this is their grand coup d'etat. Look at them, aren't they? Don't they look beautiful as they destroy? But you see, folks, this is their toys. It's their plants. It's their food production companies. And if they don't want to sell you any more cornflakes, they don't have to. They can just burn their plant down, which is what they're doing. And they'll take their insurance money and run. We've seen that play before, right? And so, folks, this is serious stuff. And I'm being funny a little bit, but it's serious. And you need to get out of these areas. If you're getting a word from Elohim, got to get out of there. Now, again, affecting Texas. Texas, I believe, is a hot spot. I believe it's a hot spot for the remnant. So I believe that this is going to continue to see sort of things that are happening around it or might potentially affect it. Did you know that 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 different oil facilities went up in smoke? What was it, the day before yesterday? Yeah. So as if prices of gas and oil and things weren't high enough, they went ahead and this has just happened. Fire engulfed 3 separate oil facilities. 3 separate oil facilities. Did I mention that these are 3 separate oil facilities? I just want to make sure we're clear on that. But they're owned by the same company. Nothing suspicious about that at all. Nothing to see here, folks. The oil facilities were owned by Pemex and located in Texas and Mexico. Petróleos Mexicanos, best known as Pemex, had fires at 3 of their oil facilities on Thursday. The infernos left 8 people injured and 5 others missing as of Thursday night. 1 person died in the fire, according to Bloomberg. And so, can you feel the tightening? And this is meant to make the cost of gas so prohibitive you won't travel. Why would they want to prevent your travel? Why would they want to keep you from moving from where they put you? Well, I don't know if you've heard it, but they got this thing about 15-minute cities they'd like to talk you into. So they want you to run off just so quick. They got some really cool things they want to unleash and reveal and share with you. So don't run off, right? They're going to make it almost impossible for you to get out of there if they have their way. So this is why it's important that we take this seriously while we have time and not take lightly the conflict that you're watching right now, because this has got nothing to do with us, but it affects us. And this is the downfall of the United States, fulfilling the prophetic word that he gave me to take to 40 cities and a lot of other prophetic voices since then and before then that had told this wicked nation, if it didn't repent and didn't forsake its evil ways, that this is what was going to happen. He was going to let loose these Babylonians, these wicked men. He was going to let them do their thing. You know now that he was protecting this nation all this time. Now you know how much of his protection was on this nation. How do I know? Because he's lifting it. He's lifting it. And we're starting to feel it. Okay? We're starting to feel it. And this is going to get bad, folks. So 3 fires. That's pretty rough. And the good news is, again, this is a war, so it's not all one side. And many times what we do is we focus on, what the evil is doing, but there's good news too. The Katie Hobbs situation where they're exposing corruption, very good news. I'm gonna give you another piece of good news. Here, let me show you this. This was just announced by El Salvador, and I hope it's an example of the way in which they're going to deal with this going forward. It looked very successful. However, of course, there's going to be those who claim they're the innocent. There's a few innocent in there, and that may very well be, and they should get good legal representation if there are. But I have to say, I was pretty encouraged to see that El Salvador is taking their gang problem really seriously. And so the first group of 2,000 suspected gang members in El Salvador have been moved to a huge new prison, the centerpiece of President Nayib Bukele's self-declared war on crime. And tens of thousands of suspected gangsters have been rounded up in the country under a state emergency following a spike in murders and other violent crime. The jail will eventually hold more than 40,000 people. So these people have reached the point, they reached their "we've had enough" moment. You see this? This is what it looks like when you finally have had enough. And so, look at this. All tattooed the same. It's a gang thing. So, and if you see this stuff here, let me see if I can play that. It is amazing. And I really believe that this is a very good news in many ways, because the lawlessness is being addressed in a very aggressive way. So that's good news in that sense. But this doesn't solve our sin problem. This doesn't solve it. Just stops this crazy from continuing. But what this does encourage me with, folks, and why I'm encouraged, is because it says that there does come a point when the back breaks, when the straw is final, and we finally hear the voice of sanity say enough, because this country was being held hostage by these gangs. Anybody that was familiar with El Salvador and with the gang activity in that nation knows that that's a reason why we had a lot of the immigrants that were coming up from El Salvador. Is because of the gang problem that they had. It had basically, the nation had more or less been given over to the gangs. And some of you live in parts of the nation where you feel that way right now, where you're concerned about even going to your car in the dark, and things that become more aggressive, right? So you're going to see that crackdown. So the good news is there's some pushback against this evil criminality going worldwide. The bad news is usually what they replace the one thing with is usually worse than so we'll have to watch this experiment with interest to see how it unfolds. But nevertheless, it is definitely becoming a more hostile world in both directions. So those that want to mess around, apparently they're now finding out, right? So this is good news. But at the same time, realize that we are far from this place here in the United States. In the U.S. today, the crime rate continues to rise. I continue to watch. If you go to BitChute, you won't find this stuff on. I haven't found much of it on Rumble or anywhere else. I find it primarily on BitChute. It's raw. So you need to really be discerning on what you watch, because some of what people post is inappropriate, even for well-prepared adults. I'm just going to let you know. And some of it is very, very dangerous information. Speaking of which, I have one more story I wanted to share with you. It's a little disturbing. Let me see if I can find it. I lived for many years in Minnesota. Let me see if I can find that report. And if I can't, I'll just put it on Remnant Watch. But it was a report that essentially detailed that 3M, Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing, was involved and is involved, if you will, with here it is. All right, there, I found it. I'd rather put it in front of you than just give you my remembrance of it. I found it. Okay, hang on a second. Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing, otherwise known as 3M, right? Big company. I mean, they pretty much are Minnesota. You know, I mean, this is one of, if not the biggest companies in Minnesota. Maybe Carlson companies might be bigger, but you know, everybody's heard of 3M. Post-it notes, you know those guys? Okay. Hold on a second. It's going to pull it up. This is a U.S. patent. I'm going to show it to you here on the screen. Hang on. Watch this, guys. Minnesota Mining, Manufacturing, right? What does that say? What does that say? Does that say what I think it says? Yeah. 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 So we're going to go ahead and put that on. I don't know if that's on Remnant Watch right now, but it will be. I'll make sure that you can access this, and I'll even put the link here in the chat so that everybody can go after the broadcast right to that and review. And it's just basically a patent. Where's my mouse? There it is. Yeah, it's just basically a patent, and I think Octavia, you just summed it up in one word. Where is that? No, wrong one. Here. Wicked. These people are wicked. And so that's exactly right. I think they're wicked. I do believe they're wicked. And the word is adrenochrome. So this is the kind of people that we're dealing with. It says adrenochrome, sweetheart. So that's what it says. For those of you that, and I'll post I think I posted the link. Did I? Yes. See right there. See Remnant House, archive.is. Look on the chat. You can click on it. You can look at it and see it closer. But I'm just letting you know what it says here. Let me put it back on the screen. I'm going to blow it up a little bit so you guys can all see it. Hang on. Let me see if I can do that real quick. Hang on a second. There we go. Hey, look at that. Can you see it now? Can you see it now? Can you read it now? Right? It's crazy. Oh, sorry, guys. Oh, yeah, look at that. I can't get rid of that. Yeah. Adrenochrome derivatives. What business do you folks? There's only one place to get that. You guys know this, right? You know that there's only one place to get that. Oh, sorry, Kat. There's only one place that you can get this chemical. This is like you want to talk about like some of the whitest label type of companies you could find. I mean, these are Fortune 500. I'm shocked. I'm literally shocked right now. Okay, I mean, I like I said, I lived in Minnesota for 30 years, since '84 till 2018. You know, basically on and off, more or less there for that whole time. I would never have known. Would never have known something like that. And it's like it's matter of fact. And so, folks, this is it. This really is a multidimensional war. We really are up against forces that we did not understand how serious they were and how organized they are. And so when you look and you go into these GMO food processing distribution centers, otherwise known as grocery stores, you don't realize what you're getting. We can't trust them anymore. We are finding out more and more reports about the contaminants that remain in food. We are continuing to find more and more reports on all of the different contaminations of the soil. If you'd run a search on glyphosate, you're going to find out all the products that still have glyphosate in them, which is a cancer-causing agent. It comes from Roundup, the the weed killer. And so They need to be cut off, folks. The food in the United States is illegal in 30 countries. You can't even export it because it's so bad. And this is why, remnant saints, my brothers, my sisters, please pray and seek Elohim about where to connect and reassemble, if you will, because this is getting more and more wild, and they're using chemicals now. And I've got unconfirmed reports. I'm not going to share that link because I'm not sure about it yet, and we have to dig a little further. But preliminarily, they're saying that it may reach the very bottom of the Mississippi, the East Palestine thing. Going to go all the way down the Mississippi, they're saying. That's intentional. That's meant to do harm. That's meant to bring people into destruction. So this is why all the more we need to be awake. We don't have the luxury of putting our head in the sands, if you will. And look, corruption comes usually from the top down. That's the way corruption thinks. But the solution is the ground up. And I believe that what has to happen nationally, if I were giving advice to the country, if you will, I would say start forming your own city councils. Start forming your own communities. Why? Because then you know everyone that's on that city council. And that is the real government of any area, is the very local government. It isn't this national stuff. The national guys have to go through the local guys. So if the local guys hold their ground like they did here in Cochise County, right? That's a kind of example of it. It can be very significant, and this is where our chances lie, if you will, is being in communities where that whole community can speak with one voice, saying, "Yeah, I don't think we're doing that," you know. So that can be wonderful. But if it's a mixed community, right? If it's not the remnant, if it's just a bunch of people, then it may not work very well. I just recently got a phone call this week from a gentleman that was telling me about one of the many remnant settlements that are in the Ozarks. And he was telling me that initially it went well, and people, what they did, because they wanted to retain their independence, they bought, everybody bought, they sold like 40 different people lots and thought this would all work together, right? But you see, if the qualifier is, do you have the money, then you just have people who have the money. Not necessarily the remnant. Blessed are the poor. Amen. And so much of the remnant does not have the means to do something like that. And that would not be practical for them. So you'd be missing much of the salt of the earth if that's your system. And sure enough, he was telling me it's basically falling apart. There's no cohesion. There's no unity. It was all about money. It was all about, it was fear. And they all ran together in fear. That doesn't work. You've got to be together with people who you have the same heart with, right? So if the remnant get together who believe the same things, it's a lot easier than if you have, again, what you have today, which every time you go to a meeting, you got to be, okay. They're going to what? They're going to do what? What program? Oh, I'm not leaving my child for that. Oh, we're leaving for this. Oh, we can't stick around for that, right? That's going to vex your spirit all the time. So I believe that, it is time. I've been saying this for some time, but again, I'm always out in front. So, I understand if you all are saying, well, Peter, sometimes you're out in front and we have more time. I think that might have been true a few years ago, but I don't think that's so much true now. And so I get it. I understand, the prophetic apostolic gift calls things way in advance. I get that. But folks, this is right now. This is now time. We're watching this stuff, and now this is no longer, I'm prophesying they're going to do this. This is, we're reading the news here. This happened. These are things happening. So this is why it's so important for us to find these relationships. Look at this chat. You see all these, our brothers and sisters on here, which, by the way, thank you so much for joining us tonight for that and for chatting with one another. Chat's been very lively. Everyone's awake. And this is what we need. We need to stop thinking somebody else is going to solve this. One of the things that we see here every week, and we all have to do the job. We have a thing called swarming. One of my favorite things to see the guys do is swarm. Nobody cares what's title of what. If it's laundry or if it's a groceries that come in, everybody helps. If it's we got to move something, everybody grab end of it. If there's a job that one time there was they had to move the whole Chicken City. I call it Chicken City. They had to move Chicken City, right? Do you have a Chicken City? Well, you need a Chicken City, right? So they had to move Chicken City. Well, guess what? It's an all hands on deck effort, right? And so that's a beautiful thing about being together with your brethren. Now, personally, I love the way we've got this set up, and we're going to continue to build more cabins this summer. We've got Real Man Camp starting on Shavuot. I'm just going to announce it now. I was going to do it over Passover, but I'm so excited I can't hold it in. Real Man Camp. And we're going to start in Shavuot, and we're going to work. This summer is going to be a summer of work. Why? Because we know. What do we know? You all are figuring it out. Okay? People are going to need our help, saints. They're going to need our help. They're going to need to know where to go. They're going to need to have they're going to have new things set up. They can't this is going to fail. This is a train heading for the station with no brakes, man. Okay. I feel like Spider-Man trying to stop it. Like, slow down, let my people get off. That's how I feel. It's like, because it's going to hit. And there's going to be a lot of loss of life. There's going to be a lot of people hurting. And I want to be there to minister to that. But we have to survive it to minister. How many know that if you get killed in the tornado, you're no good after the tornado? You got to survive the tornado so that you can get out of the survival and go now help the community recover. If you die in the tornado, you're no help. So don't die in the tornado. Find your place. Find the place Elohim has ordained. He ordains a place for everyone. If he's counting the very hairs on your head, you don't think he planned for your endurance to the end? You're the remnant. Of course he did. He's jealous for you. Do you know what that means, that he's jealous? He was ministering this to me today. It means he responds quick. You ever meet a jealous husband? Go ahead and smart off at a jealous husband's wife. See how fast he moves. What'd you say? What'd you say? And that's how Elohim is with the remnant right now. That's why you need to just trust him, love him, honor him, worship him, and do what he tells you. And if he's telling you time to get up and go, sweetheart, it's time to get up and go. I don't want to hear that your get up and go got up and left. You need your get up and go. Amen. I was talking to one of my brothers today, and talking about connecting up and rearranging, right? And it's getting real now. It used to be just theoretical. We were just talking about it and musing and going, now they're blowing stuff up, pouring, they're making it so that you have to, right? Couple years ago, we got a prophetic word. He said that he was going to discomfit his people. What does it mean to discomfit? Think baby bird getting out of a nest, kicking out of a nest. This is what the picture I got in my mind is. He's going to make some things uncomfortable. Since then, we have watched him systematically make wherever he wanted to move people get more and more uncomfortable, whether it be violence, pestilence, earthquakes, tornadoes, storms, weather, and then man with all of his wonderfulness and all the things that man does, right? And so we got chemicals and this stuff, right? What's going to happen? We're going to start to get uncomfortable. So to review, we continue to see unabated attacks on our food supply, unabated attacks on our monetary system, unabated attacks on our governments, attacks on the very integrity of our counties, of our governments that put people. I mean, when I was listening to this one report that I started off today with, you're going to hear how they able to go right into a database and change evidence that's been presented in court. Yeah, Octavia, did you hear that? They can go into the database, and this database has no integrity. So there's people sitting in prison on false charges. And I mean, you want to talk about serious legal repercussions. I don't know how Arizona can survived that. I mean, when they wrongfully imprison just one guy, like, they have to pay him these huge amounts of money when they wrongfully imprison. What if it's 10,000 people they've got wrongfully in prison? That'll bankrupt your state. You can't pay all of them off. So there's something serious going on here, folks. They went for it. Basically, this was like run for the end, hoping you all die before so they can get away with it. And it didn't work. It didn't work. And now they're sitting here in the light going, uh-oh, right? So this is good for us. It's good for those that didn't have any hand in any of this wickedness. But on the downside is now it's time for us to rebuild. And it doesn't matter whether you are building brand new in a piece of empty land or having to rebuild a community that was knocked down by a tornado. You're still doing the same work. You're still doing the same thing. Amen. And so I believe that it's time for us to say, you know what? If I'm going to have to start all over anyway, I'd rather start all over with my brethren, because one thing I've learned is I don't even have any friends and family in this neighborhood. We were living up in Buckeye, up in the cities close to Phoenix, and we lived right next door to bunches of people we only knew one couple. It just happened to be because we strike up conversations, but there's no cohesion in these neighborhoods. They're just proximity. Proximity is not cohesion. I felt more uncomfortable there because at any time you could be victimized. You understand? Whereas when you are with your brethren, it's like you got to come get all of us, or you best to leave all of us alone. See how that works? And I believe that's what he wants. He wants you together. They can't attack the camp of the saints if you ain't in your camp. So you got to fulfill the scripture too. You need to get to the camp he's got for you, so y'all can stand your ground and hold your ground wherever that is. And I know that climates are different. So like I was talking to I got brethren up in the Northeast and the cold, other people that are down in Texas is hotter than it is here. I love Ezra. People that are down in or up in Oregon and up in the northwest corner of the country, right? So there's various climates. So if you're like, hey, I can't handle that arid community, that arid Arizona, whatever, right? So let's say you're that person. Well, that's fine. There's places, there's other brethren, so just start. All right, start looking, start praying, start seeking him, start getting together with your brethren. And where there's no unity, then don't participate in that. Again, you need to be with brethren, because you already have enough enemies out there. You don't need to start getting into situations where it gets more complex. And people are prickly. Porcupine dance is probably a good description of what we're going to see a little bit of. But I think the backdrop of what we're watching should help people get over their prickliness and picadillos and preferences and so forth. And so, yes, Phoenix is very hot. Phoenix, up in that Phoenix area, is very, very warm. Down here where we are, for those of you that are curious about that, since I saw Mama put it up on the chat, is about 10 or 15 degrees consistently cooler than the Phoenix area. So when you see them at 95, we're at 80, 85. And so that's how that works. We're also at a different elevation. We're at 4,200 feet. So that means that, we're not affected by the same things that you would be affected by at sea level or closer to sea level. The density of the air, and i.e. pollution, is greater because the density of the air is greater. So if you're in that valley and they do poison, you are more likely to be impacted than if you were on a mountain. So I wonder if that's why. Let's not even be funny about it. That is why. One of the reasons why the king said flee to the mountains, right? Because there's an advantage. You get the high ground. And he wants his people out of these areas of danger. Now, not everybody can do that. You can't always arrange that, but you can at least have partnership and relationship with people that have prepared, right? So even if you can't do it and you say, man, I don't have the resources, I don't have the means, I don't know how to do that, I don't know. Well, then it might be time to make friends. It might be time to make some relationships, right? It might be time to connect in. If you connect with Remnant House, well, then you do have friends in the mountains, right? But if you connect with, there's plenty. It's not just, I'm not advertising here. I'm just telling you, you got to solve this problem. You can't just think the answer is going to be, the grocery store is just going to be there indefinitely and their plans just going to, this will blow over. No, it's going to blow over with a cloud of dioxin, maybe. Okay, it'll blow over as it blows some house by with a man-made tornado or two, right? So, this is crazy. And you need to be connected. You need to be faithful to a house, to a team. Because how many know those people run up at the last minute saying, hey, can you let no, if a group of 30 people done sweat and busted their hump to get something going, you better prepare to go over there energy, time, or resource. If you're short on one, you better beef up the other two. Okay, because that's how the real world works. And I'm so grateful for my brothers and sisters that have helped us get this along, both physically with the work that's being done here daily, and also with the resources that we need. Now you're starting to understand why. Why he has put certain people in certain situations. And yes, it is going to be a challenge. You think it was easy for me to come here? No, I had to put away things. I had to put away things that I love to do. I had to put away some conveniences. I had to put away some issues in my life, right? So I could say, okay, I'm going to focus on this. No more golf for me. No more golf for me. Everybody can tell you I haven't played golf one time since I've been here. Not once. And for those of you that know me know that that was a big part of my life. I enjoyed playing golf. It's one of my favorite things to do for pastime and weight loss. I need to walk. Get some of this off me. But, we need that. And we have to sacrifice to pull out to do the thing he's called us to do. Amen. And so I have to do what I'm called to do. And I know that there's others that are sacrificing all kinds of other things. Pleasures and social things have to take a back seat right now. We've got a family to prepare for who doesn't even know they're going to need us. So those of you like my sister Octavia and my brother Tony out there in Texas, and others that are out there, my sister Carol out in the East Coast, holding it down by herself, by the way. And so she could use a trainload of help. Just saying. Might be having some coming your way though, dear. And, there's others as well. And you all have places that you've got potential for people to at least band together. It's like, let's at least regroup, let's at least reform. What did I say? Liquidate, consolidate, congregate. Liquidate, consolidate, and congregate so we can celebrate. So we can be together. At least we stand together, right? And I believe that's very important. I've been doing this for a while, and I can tell you where 2 or 3 are gathered together in his name, there is he in the midst of them. Amen. And so let me encourage all of you, keep your eyes on the news, keep your eyes on what's going on. Don't be one of those people that are uninformed. New Kingdom Golf, right? Well, the guys, what's funny is the guys, they hit golf balls. Yeah, we own so much land that you hit a golf ball and won't even get off our land. So they play. I didn't even want to start that motor, if you know what I mean. Okay. I don't even want to start that motor because I got to stay focused. I got to stay on what task he's given for us to do. We got a lot of tigers by the tail. This was a huge one. We're the only place that makes this particular oil. So we've got to build a place. We have to build a specific building just for that. So I've got a plan for that. And then we still have some. So we're not at that point yet, but we're getting close. So folks, keep us in prayer. And then, of course, we need opportunities for people to survive. So this is going to require, an effort. This is not an easy thing. So thank you, by the way, to all of you who participate with us, who help us. New Kingdom Energy has made amazing strides. I'm really proud of our team there. And I'm excited for what will be being revealed. And honestly, I really believe that there's a lot that is coming out now that is going to explain or expose the lies that they have told us, even scientific lies, which we're not surprised by that. There's some things we're already busting out, but there's going to be more. So I just want to encourage you, don't take this time lightly. Don't waste this time. Redeem the time, for the days are evil. And connect with your brethren. And as you do, you're going to feel better. You're going to start to see him moving. So as you connect, as you invest together, okay, build together, profit together. You know, if you have to go together and then that's the arrangement, then do that. But get it done. Move together. And that is my encouragement to everybody today. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for this update. I think I went on a little long there, so my apologies. I love you all. Any specific camp needs right now? The list is considerable. Every time people ask me that, is it we talking big money or little money? Because for big money, we need lumber. I mean, a lot of lumber, a lot of material. But on a, sort of a more individual, lower level scale, if you will, contact Mama and ask her for, what things we need here. I mean, obviously, resources that are sent in, anything that is sent in on remnanthouse.org goes straight over to that work. So nobody here, not a single person on this place on any kind of salaries or any kind of pay or any of that. Everybody here is the labor of love to prepare for what is to come. So, and I believe that's probably true in every camp. You're pretty sure going to find the remnant it's all labor of love work. Everybody's just trying to bless and get out in front of what's coming. And so I'm very grateful for all of you that have land, that have opened it up, or people that, Tim's got it. PVC for drain, things like that. We've got things to build. And our hope is to we want to put up as many cabins as we can. Like this is a cabin, right? So it's a wonderful dwelling. We all eat together and you have your own privacy. So it's a good mix between the two, the community element and the privacy element. It's a good mix. I like it. So I would like to continue that. And with your help, maybe I pray that we could. And again, we have other brethren. We got my sister out there in the East Coast. And she has space and she needs help. And I'm certain she would love to hear from real, genuine remnant, not flaky crazies, but you know what I mean? People that'll really come and work and help. And that's going to be true across the board. So folks, continue to pray for one another. Be kind, be forgiving. Remember that we're to be kind even to our enemies, and lend without any hope of return. Because your king's bringing rewards. And I promise you, the moment he comes through those clouds, you are not going to be thinking about any of the monies or any of the things or any of the assets or any of the other stuff. You're going to be seeing that reward that he's bringing for you, for your obedience. That's why we're willing to just run this race right now and do all he's called us to do. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I don't have a camp list, but that's probably something that's coming. So good suggestion, Holly. Come on board, be part of our team. Maybe you can be in charge of that. I need people in every area. I got 70 departments to fill, and we got 7 people here. So you get the idea. We got a lot to do, and we need all the help we can get. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you for your encouragement. I see we have 53 people watching right now, which is just wonderful. We're so grateful for every one of you, and we're thankful that you joined us. May Elohim bless each and every one of your homes. Shalom.